Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, I really hope you like what you hear. So we're super excited for multiple reasons about the guests that we're bringing on today. First, this is the first time we've had more than one person on the podcast at the same time. Second, they are such awesome people and they are so much fun to talk to. Corinna and Isabel are twins that were born and raised in a small town in Germany and came to the United States long ago. They are musicians, they are poets, they are artists, and they are philosophers. They are super intelligent, super well spoken on really deep subjects. And I think you're just going to love the conversation we have with them and the energy they bring to the podcast and their views on life. And they're just really neat ladies. We're really fortunate to have had them reach out to us and get to know them a little bit. And without further ado, let's bring them on to the podcast now. Corinna, Isabel, thank you so much for joining us on Salty Ginger Talk. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having us, Joe. It's a pleasure. Yep.
Awesome. So, yeah, I've been really looking forward to this. The first time we spoke, we did an intro call, and it was my most entertaining intro call because they were driving. So, they're in Los Angeles, and Corinna and Isabel were driving, and I got a little bit of a play-by-play of what was going on, and it was by far my most entertaining intro call. And they're such fun people to be around. I've been so excited to have them on the podcast. So,
Okay.
um, artists first and foremost, music, painting, writing, philosophy. And so super excited to have you kind of talk about all of those things on the podcast. If we could start, we usually try to start right at the beginning because we like our listeners to have a background of just kind of broad strokes, how you worked your way through life. And then we'll dive into the details after they kind of have an understanding. So could you walk us through where you grew up, how you kind of wandered out into the adult world and made your way through the adult world to where you are now? And then we'll come back and do a lot of detailed questions around that.
You got it. I'm so inspired to be jokey with you. I'm gonna be serious, but that's really funny. I love that. There's these few people that bring out like the funny bone in me. You're one of them. But here we go. So we grew up in a small town in Germany, and being that we're twins, when we were 8 years old, it started that we had sung because our parents both were very musical, and so the music was introduced to us from a very young age, and our mother would teach us harmonies and like the German, what they call Heimatslieder, folk songs, and
Austria.
yeah. So with 8, we started to sing in front of people, and they really enjoyed it, and so it became a thing that we were just constantly performing uh, these folk songs, and then music therefore was immediately in us, and we ended up in America. I did 10 years before Isabel. That was to find myself, I think. And I did find myself. Thank you. Woo. And then when Isabel joined, we did music together again. And a few years ago, we started our project, Our Truth, which is who we call ourselves now, with our art and our music and our communication. And it's all about how, it's our teaching that we taught helped. I mean, everything we write and everything we do is really for ourselves, and then it's for others. Isabel likes to say that, and now I took that away from you, but you can also take over. I feel like
Yeah, so yeah, I can add to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, we grew up with a lot of music, like Rena was saying, and we were always, since early on, we wrote lyrics because we would change. There was a lot of English music on the radio, and we would always love to sing, and then we wanted to sing to a melody that we liked, but we didn't really know what they were saying, so we made up our own lyrics. And then we also wrote poetry. I started drawing at teenage years, kind of black and white only. Then Corinna introduced me later in the years into color. I was even thinking, it's so funny.
she'd never seen it before.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. So we bounced off each other a lot of energy, and I like to look at the world through the eyes of energy, anyways. And there's two energies in every human being. the yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine energy, or certain expressions of an energy. And Corinna and I bounced these off of each other. This was great for my mind, who was from the beginning had a little bit of a harder time coming here than Corinna, who was born healthy, and I was born a little weak for the first 24 hours. We weren't sure, do I make it? And then I looked for, why am I here? And what is this life about? And the beautiful thing is, when we look for answers, we find when we have questions, we get answers. And with my sister, I saw a lot of the bigger picture, because oftentimes our mom said that we are mirror twins, and we split very late. And a lot of things we have on the opposite side.
Talking, right?
Yeah, in the womb. So a lot of, it's like Corinna's left-handed and I'm right-handed, and you can see our hair is different. Even in our expression, we are often on the opposite side, which is amazing to see yourself more clearly, because we need the contrast to see clearly in life. So all of these things now, and then we write stories, or we both write stories. I'm not. Are you writing? Well, you wrote the musical mostly. I wrote short stories.
I write stories.
We both did poetry.
We don't talk much about that.
Yeah, and we shared everything because it's our journey. We shared the journey.
Oh my gosh, there's so much good stuff to talk about in there. Let's start with growing up in Germany. So you grew up in Germany before it was reunified, is that right?
Yeah,
Yes, that's correct.
But we already were growing up in the West Side. So, but our father was actually from East Germany, but escaped before the wall was built, or right at that time. So, in that sense, when the wall came down, we did go to celebrate with, part of the family that we had always such difficulties to visit, because it was really quite a thing to visit East Germany.
We were there. We
Yeah,
were
yeah,
there
we
when
were
the
there.
wall was still up, and it was quite mind-blowing, the difference you see, and how to even travel into, and the way they took the cars apart and they checked everything, and it was really
Take the seats
interesting.
out to make sure there's not a person hiding underneath, or I don't know. That's how
Or
my
that
dad
you don't-
explained it back in the days. When
Yeah, or you don't
Mhm.
bring in things that they didn't want. They didn't
Yeah.
want to have Western things, and you had to exchange a certain amount of money, and it was
Which felt like toy money. It had no weight. It was very interesting. Well,
Hmm.
anyway, but yeah, so this wasn't the way we grew up. This was only when we visited. We did grow up close to Frankfurt in a small town. So that separation wasn't affecting us very much.
Sure, that makes sense. Appreciate you kind of explaining that. Did you have what stage in life were you guys when the reunification happened? Were you teenagers? Were you young adults? Where were you in life?
No, we were teenagers. It happened 91. 91 or 92? 91, I think. October 91, something like that.
91, 93, something.
No. It's 91. Yeah, so 15, I think, or whatever. Yeah. Now we all know how old we are. Which I don't mind, really. I'm proud of my age. I am who I am with pride, whatever.
Yeah, well, like we talked about, the ginger is because I used to be a redhead before I went gray. I'm 53 now. And yeah, I wear it with honor. I earned all these gray hairs for sure. So
Yeah, plus I feel like age is, I'm sorry, please.
no, go ahead. Fire away.
No, it's good.
He says you should speak.
They did. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay, I just wanted to say I think age is actually such a beautiful thing, because every day that we live is more experience, and that doesn't necessarily mean that one is above the other. I like how we all can look at each other and allow each other to have respect, no matter how old we are, if it's a child or whatever elderly person. But either way, I do think that age is a beautiful thing because of knowledge.
I have a suggestion, exactly, very close to this. How about we all stop saying we get older, and we all start saying we get wiser? Ooh, that opens the mind for such a more beautiful experience altogether.
I love that. I love the way that you phrase that. That's a great way to think about it. And it's funny too, because I don't know about you, but I can speak for myself. When I was younger, I really worked hard to try to prove myself that I knew things, or that I was smart. It's one of my running jokes that it's too bad he didn't know me when I was 20, because I was so smart when I was 20. I knew everything. You didn't have to ask me. I would just tell you I knew everything. And now I'm older and I realize I don't know anything. And there's so many people out there that have so much knowledge. Like I've been so looking forward to this conversation because the world that you live in terms of art and kind of expressing yourself through those mediums is not a world I live in at all. And I'm so fascinated to learn about how other people see the world and how they express themselves because I'm very literal. I'm very left brained. I'm very logical. I do have a crazy warped sense of humor for sure, but, and I know I have a good time. That's for sure too. But like, I don't do any of the things you do, write music or play instruments or write poetry or draw or art or any of those things. So I'm just so fascinated to learn about it. So I'm very excited to have you on the podcast. But I was just curious how old you were because I didn't know if you had a sense that the country was reunifying as it was happening, or did it kind of surprise you? And it was very surprising to me. I was so that it was in 1991, I would have been 19 years old, and it was very surprising to me. It seemed to happen very quickly.
It happened very quickly. We did participate a little bit because our father was from there and family was still there from father's side. And so this was the one time that I saw him cry.
And it was
Come down. He was not a cry. He was a very
stern. Yes.
Stern.
No, he was also a very happy and funny person, but
No, but that was
too feminine for
yeah.
that.
That was really touching him. So it was interesting to watch him also with the whole thing.
But when it
Sure.
happened, when it was really clear that because people were breaking it down then at that point, right? And my father didn't come from Berlin, so it wasn't that there was actually a wall, but there was a form of separation. I don't even know how they did this, but I just remember that we drove there and we went there to celebrate, and people were all standing on the street and what? You just thought that was silly? Standing on the street because of how they were.
Oh, it's like its own country.
Right, it was, but it was just so beautiful to see everyone celebrating and like this unification that came at that point. And it doesn't matter who you are. It was just, here's a person.
Again,
I hug you because wow, we're also happy.
yeah,
Cool.
how intense that actually was, I got through my father because I have always been an observer, a witness of my environment as much as I'm an experiencer. And as a witness, it was very interesting.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, I can tell you, at least from my perspective, you know, the United States growing up. So I was born in 1972. And you know, so by the time the 80s rolled around, I had an awareness and kind of, you know, could read and understood what was going on in the world and those kind of things. And there was such a portrayal in the media. And this was back, like, I love this format. So like we can talk to each other and we can talk about whatever we want. We can broadcast it out to the world and people can hear. But it used to be that if you got information, it came from one of the news channels. There was three of them, ABC, NBC, and CBS. And they spent tons and tons of time talking about kind of the rivalry between the United States and Russia and Eastern Europe, which Russia controlled. And so for it to be such a big deal for so long, and then all of a sudden it came to an end, was just very surprising. And it was very exciting in the United States too. Like, hey, this is real progress. These are people that we've like not been allowed to be friendly with or interact with for decades. And all of a sudden it's okay. And it opened up kind of a whole new thought process and a whole new world in the United States for sure, which I was fascinated by. I was very fascinated by it. I thought it was so cool that it was happening. So, and that was from afar. You know, I'd never been to Eastern Europe. I'd never been to Russia. I'd never been to Germany. But it was just such a monumental thing to happen and such a good thing to happen in the world. But when did you learn to speak English?
In Germany, in West Germany, you learn English in school. You have to learn English in school.
But
Really?
and extra.
No, but that's
Yeah, you have to learn it once we're
And-
11. But we learned it before because our parents used to live in Canada before we were born. So they kept speaking English around us until I made the mistake to say that I understand what they're saying. I wish I wouldn't have, and we would have had more secrets, but I spoiled it. What?
they translated. Our father would also translate music to us.
Yep.
He was very much into music, and he was a singer too. So he loved to sing out loud. And then when he loved a song, and we would drive to on vacation to Spain or to France, whatever, and he in a car long drive, and then he would translate the songs to us that he loved, and
And
that,
we would all sing.
yeah.
It's kind of like,
So English, it was part of our upbringing too, in a way.
yeah,
Gotcha.
learned
Gotcha.
as much earlier than most.
So, Corinna came over to the States first. Corinna, what made you decide to come to the United States?
I think my biggest thing was I had no idea who I am, and I wanted to know. And I felt that I'm having a hard time with how dominant my father was.
Hmm.
And I just wanted to get away. And when I first left, actually, I was like, I don't need to ever come back, blah, blah, blah. Which then after I did come back 2.5 years later, I was like, wait a minute, my family is amazing. We have a lot of
Mm.
issues, but they are amazing. And I didn't see that when I was younger. I didn't see that when I left. And also at the time I really loved the English language a lot. And I thought,
More than German.
yeah, more than German. And I also like this, my biggest thing was, and I always used to do that as an example, I loved how romantic it was for me, the idea of falling into love, to fall in love. Was so romantic sounding, because in German, when you fall, you basically hurt yourself. That doesn't really work as a romantic
What's
state.
what's the phrase for falling in love in German?
Verliebt. It means well, it has the same meaning, but you don't use the word falling. You
Hmm.
take lieben means love, and then you put the ver in front of it, which you do for many other words.
Although they usually, the ver in front of a German word, if I think about it, is actually moving it to the side of it. So it's, I don't think that falling in love in English, or I mean in English, is actually supporting us, because I still don't think we should fall into
I agree
anything.
now.
It's not about we should call it rising into love. You know, that would make more sense to me, or uniting with love or something. But the verliebt, I mean, I think of words like versehen, that means like
Versuchen.
yeah, versuchen.
Verlieren.
These are all words where it's kind of next to it almost. So it's also not in it. It's, I don't know. It's not
Well, back in
necessary.
the days, I
I would have
didn't
to think
think
about
about words as much as I do now, and I also just used them freely without thinking about them, which now I'm very mindful with that. But it was one of the reasons. I did love the language. I did love the idea of falling in love, and I wanted to know who I am. And it just so happened that I came to America, and I loved it. And then coming back to Germany after some time, I also realized, oh my God, I love my family. I love the language. And yeah, I mean, I got a bigger understanding of who I really am and what my heritage is by going away, which, so
Hmm.
often happens with people.
Yeah, let's start with, and you're not off the hook, Isabel. We'll get to you, but you didn't come to the United States for a little bit, so we're going to start with Corinna. So you had talked about your father being dominant and wanting to figure out who you were. I'd love to talk a little bit more about both of those things. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Well, there's a part of me that I carried with me throughout all my life, which is that I stand up for my truth. But my dad was very believing that there are certain things that are the truth and there is no other truth. And I didn't agree. And it made it very difficult to hold on to me. Even though I didn't even know who I am, there were certain things that were internal where I was like, this is me. I don't understand it, but this is me. And I I didn't feel free to be me. And so that was my biggest thing. I feel like that was my biggest reason.
Do you
Actually,
have do you have an example of one of those things that he held as a truth that didn't make sense to you?
That's an interesting question. I just know many times that my mom would come to us and say, just say yes. It doesn't matter if you think no, just say yes. Honestly, I can't even think what that would be about. I just remember saying, no, 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 I will not. And then he would come, and whatever the thing was, I would just say no, and we would seriously come together a lot like this.
Can I add to this? I feel like, generally speaking, every human being has their own truth. It's actually very individual. And as a parent, we want to do the best for our children. And I see that through the generations, we raised our children to copy us. We thought that we know best, and here's the rule, and you apply that to your life. as children, we apply these rules to our life, and then it's a good thing to wake up and look at that. Is that actually my rule? Because the majority of time was what I'm seeing or what I saw was people repeating these patterns, these enforced rules on their lives. Not only did the individual expression of every human being get lost in that story, we also started to suffer because the strength is in the truth. So if we are living somebody else's life because they told us this is how it works, and we only do that without stopping and looking at, is that really true for me? That's how all these negative behavior patterns were repeated over generations. Because there was, okay, when there was when they had wars and whatever, that we can say they didn't have the time to stop. They had to survive so much. Then the generations got better and better. We have more time now. We don't have to survive as much as when there are bombs falling or whatever. So we can wake up to that, and I definitely did wake up to that, to the stopping and seeing, like, what is it that they taught me that is actually not my truth. In fact, I started as a child because what I saw were things that are different than the norm, and I was told I'm wrong, and that cannot even be.
Well, that you imagine.
And I had to question then, well, what's happening? I'm experiencing this, and somebody says, psh, not possible. And so this is possibly also why I searched for the truth. But to go back to the story of Corinna, this is what our dad did. He was very certain that this is the way to be, and it's a very masculine energy that is the direction setting and says, this is it, and it's not bending. The feminine energy would be the bending part, would be yielding. We actually set energy and we set direction, and then we yield. We set direction and we yield, and that's how I see it. It's a pulse, yeah? You go from one energy to the other. This is like whatever, however you want to see it. And he was not yielding. He was very, very intense. This is it. And while the rest of the family was yielding to him in the sense of peace more important, okay, say whatever, sure, do your thing, Corinna was not. She felt like she needs to stand up to him, which created a lot of issues.
I didn't feel like I need to stand up to him. I need to stand up for me.
That's
and it just ended up being that way.
In the end,
it was all about me.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, but whatever. Guess it's still a point of view that was for me. I could
but that's
not
what
give myself up.
Anymore. So she had to get out of this environment to actually survive, because the pressure was unbearable.
But it's so, yeah, it's so interesting because Corinna, you're saying your motivation was about yourself and finding out who you are, but Isabel, you earlier said that you have always been an observer, and so it sounds like you were really observing how these interactions played out. Do you think that made it easier or harder for you, Isabel, to kind of find your way in life later down the road? Did Corinna's I don't know if refusal is the right word to say it, but her unwillingness to yield or not be who she was, did that show a path to you to kind of navigate behind the scenes without having to go through the stuff she went through?
So a lot of the things that I'm seeing now, obviously I say, but I did not see back then. Back then I was an observer, much more than the connections they came over the years. I'm more and more connecting what I'm seeing. I feel on our paths, Corinna, well, like I said, we're like often on opposite sides. If a human being fights for individual expression, we were in an environment that suppressed the individual expression. So either you are the person who then fights, no, or you're the one who gets smushed almost, like, and then you from that pressure where you get pushed down, you either I'm not going to say it like that. You either die from it or you survive it. I was not willing to die from that, but it did definitely push me down in a different way. And I had to also deal with the suppression in different ways. We both had this kind of suppression, but I feel like I had it very much on the feminine side, where there was a different kind of abuse also then that showed up in my life than Corinna had. It's like these patterns repeat itself until we wake up to it. That's why I said that earlier. And then when I see what's actually happening, I have the power to change it. in the end, I think what every human being has is choice. Even saying I don't have a choice is a choice. And what we're choosing, we can choose empowerment. We can choose to look at what's happening and say, this is no longer true for me. This is true now. And this is where the power is, I feel. But I had to come to this. This is years of going through trials and tribulations, of a lot of heartbreak and there's no such thing like heartbreak. Sometimes I use words that are just commonly used, but I disagree with
Well,
them.
your heart was broken.
No, a heart cannot break from my perspective.
Sorry.
But
It felt like
I was in pain for sure. I had many years of pain. I didn't want to live. I had depression. I walked through all of this, yes. But now I'm not 51, and I had dealt with a lot, and I released so much, and I changed the patterns, and so now I don't have that. Now I'm not depressed. I'm not, I'm actually pretty good for my emotional state. It has to do with an emotional state.
Yes, that's super interesting. I want to make sure we come back to that. When you, and I think we will when we talk about your work now, because I think that'll come back up. I know it'll come back up again because I'll make sure it will. But so Corinna, you came to the United States, and where in the United States did you go? I know you're out in California now. Is that where you went to when you came?
I was in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, really?
And I
My mom's from Seattle, born and raised.
Where does she live?
She lived in Queen Anne Hill. She lives out here now in
Queen Anne?
Cleveland, but she lived
Oh,
on Queen Anne Hill. Yeah, she grew up
I
there.
used to live there too for a minute. I mean, when I was in Seattle, I actually lived in many areas. But I loved it. When I got there and I saw the skyline when we came off the freeway, I mean from the freeway, I will never forget that. There was something, oh, it almost makes me emotional. It was so beautiful. And I loved being there. And I met wonderful people. And also the weather was more similar to Germany than LA is. And I think that was also a really nice adjustment, that it isn't so huge with the weather, that it was still similar. And I remember going to this area, the Arboretum, which was like a nature area with a little lake, and it really totally reminded me of Germany, which is subconscious at the time, I guess, because I was like, Germany, blah. And yet I was all in my heart when I would go to places that reminded me of it. So yeah, that's where I was.
Yeah, that's funny. And you said you didn't go back to Germany for 2.5 years, but when you did, you kind of had an epiphany that, hey, my family's pretty awesome. I wasn't seeing this the way that I see it now. What do you think? How did that change? What made that change in your mind, do you think?
Well, I feel like, yeah, exactly. Comparison A, but also, there's a clarity that comes when you step out of something and then step back in. Because when you're in it, and we know that all of us probably, when we think about it, anytime we're in a situation, it is harder to see it.
Can't see the forest for all of the trees.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
So my focus was very much on my father, I guess, and on the oppression. And I have to add, he also had amazing sides. He wasn't just like a, domineering, obviously,
course.
I mean, I wouldn't be able to turn up as I am right now. And I'm very happy with who I am. And I got a lot of things from him, He was like a fearless character that had no fear of humans, which I have also, thank you God. And he always believed that everyone matters, and it's fairness is, he said like the garbage man is as important as the president or whatever, in the sense of like everyone deserves respect. And that was really, really a beautiful thing to learn. And it's a really beautiful thing to experience, that sometimes I deal with people where I feel like they don't think they are as worthy because of whatever their reasons may be. And it's nice to help people remember that they are. So I got that from my father. And also that fearlessness of singing and dancing freely anywhere is from my father.
I love that. And speaking of, I say this to people a lot who want to blame others for their lot in life. So whatever, it was my dad, it was my mom, it was my uncle, it was my grandma, it was my brother. If you're going to blame them for all the things that are wrong in your life, you need to give them credit for everything that's good in your life too, because if they had that much control over you, they have to be responsible for either all of it or almost none of it. And I'm not saying that people don't have their flaws and they didn't create situations that could have been difficult to deal with. But at the end of the day, we're all our own people and you get to make your own choices and you have to decide how you're going to react to the things that happen in your life. So I personally don't have a lot of tolerance for people that blame other people for their problems because I think they're avoiding whatever role they had in them. That's just the way I personally think about it. So there's your my you can remember what you paid me for the advice I just gave, which is nothing. But
No,
that's the way I think about it.
I would like to add to this that I feel we are all in this together, and the ones that are behaving differently than we would, they don't see the world like you do, Joe. That doesn't mean that you have to lose respect for them. They're maybe not as evolved, or what their story is and where they come from and why they have this perspective is really not for us to decide. I feel no, I'm just giving you my perspective because I
Mm.
feel I cannot see, even if somebody tells me their life story, all the details. I mean, I can maybe feel into it. I will not say that I get the whole story. It depends on how much they're hiding and how much they want to or whatever, or how they see themselves, because we define ourselves, and from that definition we live our lives and we experience our lives. I think everybody's beautiful, and I also feel like this is all aspects of me, Joe, my sister, everything. This computer I'm looking at, it's all aspects of myself. And the more compassion I have towards my surrounding, the more beautiful I create a world for all of us, for me and my aspects. And this is true for you too. But we all have our own consciousness in that, because it gets dangerous when I say we're all a mirror to each other, and then somebody comes and says, well, I just hit you in the face because you asked for it. Well, yeah, you also chose that direction. Even if maybe I asked for it, you chose that action. So there is, but all this is like, it's that I think in life it's much more and it's not but, it's not either or. It's really very much and this and that.
A-N-D, not E-N-D.
Yeah.
And I would like to add something too for those listeners that to identify with the character that you just brought up, Joe, somebody that says, well, it's my father or whatever. So whatever these things are that we carry that seem to be the ones we call our issue, the troubles, when we think about it, because this is how I see my father, if he wouldn't have been as aggressive and if he wouldn't have been so domineering, I would not be able to understand this personality trait. So if it would come in my life through some stranger, I would probably crumble. And I've seen many people through my work life where there was a character similar to my father, and the girl, mostly it was girls, and they would cry and they would be totally heartbroken and incapable to deal with this personality. And I was. So I always feel like because my father was as he was, I am able to stand strong within me because I know this character, and I can help those that don't know this character to help understand that side of, I keep saying character. So this characteristic, which is we are all in this together, as Isabel said. So this is a beautiful gift that was given to me, because two things can happen. Either I become what I learned or I go against it. And this is what we always do as humans. We either become our parents or we totally say, blah, blah, no, no, no. But actually, if we can embrace it and just say, like, I get it, I see where it comes from, because nobody ever is harmful towards somebody else without being harmed first. They just, it doesn't start out with nothing. They just repeat a pattern. So if we can be more open-hearted or more understanding towards this character, these sides of characters, we can really help each other. And to know this personality is really helpful to those who don't. So we all have these reasons to have what we learned. These are teachings. They're good.
I would like to, if I may add, like anybody who's listening and feels like I'm a victim of my past, that you are more powerful than you just said or you just thought. The whole blame thing keeps us small. We give the power away to our past, but we could also look at the past and see it as, oh, there's a teaching in that. I can integrate that into my story, like there's a learning in it. There's something to empower me. It's always about empowerment to me. So I see this and I can integrate it into my story, empower myself, and then expand from there, and not become that victim of the past, because that's a choice too. That's the choice that is the least empowering. That takes all the power away, gives it to the perpetrator. Mm.
I love that. Absolutely love it. And let me just say, I love being able to have these kinds of deep conversations with uh, everybody just being open minded and free flowing. It's one of the things that bothers me the most about our society is that so many people seem to have made up their mind already and they're so close minded to a different opinion than theirs, a different viewpoint than theirs. And I don't think that's useful or productive in any way, shape, or form. It makes it really hard to learn if you close yourself off and say, this is the only way, and I know it for sure, and I'm not going to listen to or try to learn anything new. So I really appreciate our conversation for what it's worth.
Thank you. I
I
appreciate
do
it
too.
too.
Thank you.
I want to say, like, when the scales are out of balance, which they were, let's say, like feminine, masculine. Okay, so the yielding energy and the direction setting energy, I'm going to call it that. The one that sees the oneness that is in the energy side, and the one that is in the material side who sees the separation of each other. So if they're in balance, and they very much were, the we are all one and we're all connected, was so suppressed, and we were like this. So now that we are getting, as human beings, I see it, we are getting into balance. What happens with the scale is usually it does this, and then often I witness this a lot. It goes too much on the other side,
Mm.
and then at some point it levels out. So that people are saying, like, that they're not open maybe for other opinions has to do with they were so suppressed that now that they want to, but they want to be themselves. So it's the fighting part. It's that, but I am this kind of, without the taking the, but it's all my reflection too, and I can actually be more at peace with that and say, more of an observer, really more of a witness, less of the victim, that is only responding to or reacting to a circumstance, but rather it can integrate the lesson. But
Yeah.
I feel it's very normal. I mean, to me, I look at it and I feel like, I understand. I feel like I'm aware why it's happening, and I can be at peace. I see it going. We're going in the right direction, Joe. I feel like we're really good human beings.
And I would like to add that I think that I made it easy for myself at one point to say that every response either comes out of two things. It's either going to be love, and we can find that very easily when it feels good, when it makes the other one feel good, when that's just a beautiful feeling, or it comes out of fear. So a person that says, this is the only opinion and you stop and I'm not even going to listen, that is a person that is scared. And it is
Yes.
a fear of if I would be able to make you think different, then you feel like you are lost. Because right now you feel solid. You feel solid with your truth and don't even dare and take that away because then who am I? And this is where I think people they're dealing with fear. And if we can at one point I said I will not judge fear anymore. So when I see a person that comes into that space of mind of judgment, or or whatever limitation, then I like to see everyone as children. And then that's a child that I will be soft towards. And then I use that little explanation, sorry, almost, when you take children that are still very young and they have a hard time with their little legs going up a staircase. If a child falls, we don't turn around and say, "You dummy, you idiot," and we don't get all harsh towards that poor child who doesn't know any better. So it doesn't matter how old a person is. In that sense, in that moment, they are that child stumbling up the stairs. And if we can be more gentle towards each other when that happens.
And that's why, because of the gentleness, I would like to add, this it's love or fear can be really hard to digest for people, because we all want to be strong. We all are giving our best already. This can be triggering. I hear that's even a problem for some people, that word. But triggering means that it's bringing up a negative emotional response. So I'd like to say, either it's from love, appreciation, or it's from pain. That is what I see is happening. So we are either coming from a point of view where we can appreciate what's happening, or we're so in pain, it's an injured ego that we cannot, that we become victim to that. So
Yes. Um, what were I just want to go through a little bit more of your background, and then we'll pivot back to, like, all these things we're talking about are going to come back up when we talk about what you guys are doing now. But Isabel, what were you doing for the 10 years that Corinna was in the United States and you were still in Germany?
I was a good girl and I did what my dad wanted. So I I was in school and I became like a businesswoman and I started working in those jobs, administrative assistant with languages. And I did that. And then um, when my dad died, I visited my sister and I met somebody and I stayed. And well, you asked me what did I do in the 10 years. Okay, if I go back to this, that's what I did. I was doing schooling and jobs.
And what else did you do? Pretending I didn't exist.
Oh, really?
Well, okay, so
Not towards me, just towards her own life.
only
Sure.
halfway through. In the beginning, I suffered that my sister had left, and then after a time, like 5 years or something, I started to actually not even mention my sister. It was I really became such an individual in my own right that this story of having a sister who's not here wasn't part of my story anymore. At least not for people that I met.
That
Well,
had
we
to
did.
be even different because you're twins, right? I mean, there's a connection between twins, even more so than just siblings, is there not?
There is, but because Isabel and I grew up, we did grow up together, but as she said, she was tiny when she came out of the womb, and I was super healthy. And there really was, I think it was a setup to a very different way of looking at life, where Isabel, as the observer, was like, we would be in a bus and she noticed everyone, and I would be in a bus with my headphones, and I'm like, don't talk to me. It's me and my music.
The
That's it.
typical separation or the oneness of the one. Like this is yeah.
So when I left, I remember coming to visit, or not to visit, I guess when I came back after 2.5 years later, I had this little booklet and I wrote, I made plans with people, and I would have like 4 people a day in my book. And then Isabel at one point came and took my book and she's like, what is this? Where am I? And this was the first time where I was like, and my response was, what do you mean? I see you every day because, we sleep in the same house and we have breakfast and whatever. But it was the first time that it was more conscious to me that I saw Isabel as, well, she's just there. I
Taken
wasn't
for
really,
granted.
yeah, taken for granted. It's true. I didn't really see a friendship as much as I very clearly can see now. But I remember that moment was very big because I could see that I hurt her.
Mm.
And
It's in the past.
Yep, but I didn't know. So,
Yeah, this is the beauty of life. Like these things happen and we can look at it and say that just had this conversation this morning. And then we see something and we say like, oh, something was missing. We can integrate that now, right? And then we can let it
This
go.
is I must be crying because there's this part of me that hasn't forgiven that I did that, but I was meant to do that.
This
Here we are.
The conversation I had this morning was like that when there's these things that weaken us is also the judgment of self. We make a mistake and then we beat ourselves down. We beat ourselves down because there was something we didn't see instead of becoming wise about it and say, I didn't see it. Cool. Okay, this won't happen again. I get the lesson.
Good with that now.
Because I mean, like the patterns, right? As human beings, because we were taught in a way in the field that we're in, we were taught that it's a huge mistake. I mean, just think of the school system. In the school system, you make a mistake, you get a bad grade. Maybe you even have the whole class laughing about you, ha ha ha. Maybe you have some parents punishing you for that. All this judgment and punishment for making a mistake that's not helpful to growth and to a fearless expression. But that's
Yeah. one of the things I try to explain to people, and I don't know if you're baseball fans at all, but I grew up to be a baseball player from the time I was 3 until I met and married my now wife. If anyone asked me what I was going to do, I was going to play professional baseball. I didn't care about the money. I didn't care about the fame. I just loved competing and I loved playing baseball. And that sport is filled with failure. So you fail a lot during baseball and you have to learn to keep pushing through it and putting yourself back into situations where you could be successful, but a lot of times you're not going to be successful. And so you have to learn that failure is simply feedback. And I try to get people to reframe it in their head and not think about good or bad, not think about right or wrong. And I mean, there's always extreme situations. So, like, abusing a child is always wrong. It's just bad. There's no upside to that. But let's leave those extreme outlier situations out of it. Almost everything else in life, you take actions and you get a result from those actions. If you like the result that you get, you should continue to take those actions. If you don't like the result that you get, you should just take different actions. And that, if you can learn to think about it that way, it gets rid of the guilt, it gets rid of the self-judgment, it gets rid of the kind of limiting beliefs that I think a lot of people wind up having in their life that are self-imposed, like they impose them on themselves. And if you can think about it different and say, hey, I made the decisions I made, I learned from them, and I'm going to apply those learnings to my life going forward. I think that's how you grow as a person, right? You have to take action and then judge those actions on whether you like the results or don't like the results. I don't think right or wrong is the way we should think about it. At least that's what I try to encourage people to do.
I think that sounds great, and I totally agree. And I like to add that what is this right or wrong anyway? Isn't it right or left? What happened? The left side is the emotional, intuitive side. How did that become wrong?
Yeah, especially since I'm left brains. I fully support your hypothesis because I'm very left brained when I take those tests that kind of analyze how you think. I've always been a very analytical thinker. It's very interesting to me though, because I actually have a pretty high emotional intelligence as well, which is not normal for someone that's as left brained as I am. And it's a learned behavior largely because of my awesome wife. But I've learned tons from her over the 30 plus years that I've been with her. I think I told you guys in our first conversation that just your energy reminds me very much of my wife. And, it just makes me a better person to be around her. And I'm very lucky to have found her when I found her. And I'm not dumb. And when I knew what I had, I got married to her. So
This is wonderful, exactly how it should be. We are here. I mean, in a way, I feel like there is always a counterpart to us that can help us become a better version of ourselves. And I'm very happy for you personally that you found that. It's
And
wonderful.
she sounds amazing.
she
I
is.
think
Yeah.
also, Joe, if you were to make another test, I wonder if you're still so left-brained. Maybe that already like leveled out a little bit, because I don't think that we must define ourselves and that's where we stay. In a world where everything's changing all the time, where energy is flowing consistently, where on an atomic level there's like quantum level, there's like appear and disappear, whatever. This whole like has to be that and only that. Just because you defined yourself as that once upon a time doesn't mean you have to still whatever works, whatever makes you happy. Just
Well,
cool.
there's definitely some truth to that. But let's pivot now to what you're doing now. So talk a little bit about your music and your art, and let's how'd you get into that as seriously as you are now? I know it's always been a part of your life because you talked about it when you were young ladies and singing and performing, and that it kind of runs in your family. But now as adults, how did it become such a big part of your life?
I feel we both, yeah, I feel we both embraced a mission we used to say on our website, we are messengers of love. That is still true. I just took the words off. But in the beginning, I had rarely looked at it as a business, if ever. This wasn't a business to me. This was me sharing what I found. This is me sharing what I created. And I'm not going to talk for you, so you can talk for yourself then, yeah? Yeah. So the blogs that I wrote, the art that I did, the music that I wrote, it's because I am inspired to do it. There's a moment where I can feel a song coming, or the drawing for me is an incredibly calming thing. That it gives me a lot of peace because I listen to very calm music or music that I like. I listen to music and I'm by myself with color and I just create something. I used to create sometimes not even looking at what pen I'm choosing. I'm just like, blindly taking a color and continue and not even sure what I'm drawing. Meanwhile, my drawings are a little bit different. I see them first and then I recreate what I see. But all of this was my creation, was for me to probably work through energetically, get to peace or express a song. The lyrics in the songs that I've been writing were I say were because I'm just writing 2 songs that are very different than before how I wrote music, but they were the words that came to me and I took them as a message for myself too. These are messages. They were messages for me. This was for me to see something clearer or whatever, to understand myself better. The drawings too, but I didn't know in the beginning that they actually can be interpreted with the meaning, whatever. But so all of this was just created and then I shared it because I always, maybe it made it easier for me to have these hardships, the pain that I worked through by thinking it's not just for me. I'm doing this also to help others. Maybe that made me feel better. I don't know. It's possible. But generally it was just I had this calling. I felt I had a calling to share what I find, to share what I create. So we had the website. This is my side of the story, right? I'm saying that because I ended up here and like I said, I just create and put it out there. And then at some point recently we came to that stop and it's like, wait, I need to not just give to the world, I need to balance myself and allow myself to receive as well. Because I wasn't asking for a return. I was only creating and giving. And then I speak for myself. I ended up in realizing, wait, but after all this creation, I'm like hardly surviving here. I mean, now on the material side. So we allowed now people can go on our website and can actually financially support us if they want, which wasn't that these options weren't available to anyone, but it was just like, have it. And then since with YouTube and the songs that we put out, you can have everything for free now. You can listen to it for free. You don't have to buy it. I'm not even going to get into what's going on with that part because, whatever. Yeah, I answered. Corinna.
Yeah, no, with Isabel and I do have that in common, that the giving part, like for me, this stuff it's for me and it's for anyone who gets touched by it, anyone that, gets drawn to it. And it is to be of service to humanity. And it has always been in the past was always very difficult for me to think that someone should pay to be helped, because help should always be freely available. But it's true, by doing that, we came together to this place of like, holy mother, I can't survive. and I would have to go to places that I don't want to go to, and I would never choose to go to if it wouldn't be for money, and that's messed up. It's not right. I don't think, and I know life doesn't work that way. Life is not, I say it differently. I believe each one of us carries wonderful gifts that are very individual, because even though Isabel and I do this together, we do write and draw and do whatever, even our way of communication is sometimes very, very individual and very unique to
Always
us itself.
individual.
So it's not, it doesn't matter how close you are, even if you come out of the same egg, you are still very different. And these gifts that each one of us carries was given to us to share. And it is not there to think that it's a dream that never is supposed to live. And I thank you, God, I always followed my dreams. And so I lived them, but I couldn't survive with them. And I still continued with them because because I cannot not do it. It's just wants to live, and I hear it and I follow. But so yeah, that was a big thing to come to that shift of like I am allowed to receive. I am allowed to do this as my life support, and not to have to go somewhere, as I said, that I wouldn't go to for any other reason but for money. Even though, thank God, anywhere I ever was, I love humans and animals and plants, but normally in the places I would go to, they were humans, and I enjoyed always the people that were around me, so I could make any job manageable. And yet still, that was the biggest thing, to come to a place of I am allowed to receive for my gifts, the things that have been given to me that are my unique expression. Was that your question?
The question was, how did this become a business? Yeah, right? How did this become a business? We always did it. It became a business when we realized, well, it's okay to receive after giving.
Yeah.
That made it a business. Before it was just sharing.
But it's funny because it's been, from what I can tell, and I don't live in that world. So, anecdotal evidence is typically the people that are most successful as artists are the ones that don't care about the money, which is clearly you two. That doesn't put food on your table though. So like you have to be able to turn the electricity on and take a shower and eat breakfast and those types of things. And so, yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being compensated for what you give to the world. The marketplace will reward people who do things that have value, and helping people has value. Entertaining people has value. And I don't think you have to think about it in terms of, again, right or wrong, right or left, to quote Isabel. But that's the way the world works. And you should be able to provide for yourselves based on what you're putting out in the marketplace. And clearly people are receiving it well, or it wouldn't be working, right?
Thank you, Joe.
Well,
So
the thing
yeah, I
about
noticed on, go ahead.
yeah, please. No, you. No, you. Go on, Joe.
No, I was going to ask a different question. So say what you were going to say. I can always ask the question.
Oh no, it was just about the thing that I know, that what I understand now, which I didn't understand before, is that money is purely, truly an energy, and it's just that we were lied to about what it is, and we, as in humanity, I believe, and so it was looked at as something to chase, and I understand now it is not to be chased; it's to allow. And it's a frequency, and the more open we are to that frequency, without that fear thought of I need to run after you. Where are you? Where are you? I need you to come to me. That kind of thing is actually pushing it away. And I think that's why so many artists have a hard time with their financial story. It's because we were lied to. It's also a lie to say an starving artist is a messed up way of setting us up, basically, because we
Totally.
don't have to starve, but we were put in this position because we believed. And all of us as humanity, anything that's not working, but that's all changing right now. Thank you, God, because we are in a very, very unique time. We've never been here. Of course, time is always different and new, but this is very, very unique than anything ever. And I waited lifetimes to be this Corinna, to have the experience that I am having. I know that. But it's that there were so many lies about what life is, and now they're all going to be freed. So we're all being shook up to truth. We're all going to be washed up to our own truth. We're all going to be allowed to live our desires and our God-given gifts. And if you don't believe in God, then let's call it life-given gifts or love-given gifts.
Yeah, I think you should be able to so okay, got it. You don't believe in God. If that's who you are, fine. Um, I I don't understand, me personally, I don't understand why you can't just listen to people who do believe in God and who are spiritual, and just learn from them and understand their point of view. I'm not saying you have to agree with it. I'm not saying you have to adopt it, but I don't understand why there's so much friction around that subject. That's just me
Well,
personally.
I feel I have an answer there because it's again about this manipulation of having a certain idea about something. So God, as much as love, the word love, I remember it's gotten better, but back in the days, if I were to when I was starting to talk about love, lots of times people would immediately close off. There was nothing to go to. And it's the same with the word God, because we were taught that God is that shaking finger man that you can go to religion and you can whatever, if you're Catholic, you can go and tell a guy what your sins were and you'll be forgiven if you were given now certain rules to follow in order to be forgiven, or you can even buy your freedom, whatever. There's all these interesting things about what God is supposed to be, that judgmental character that watches you. And that I think is why a lot of people hear that word. And we know this is the same with what's happening. And I'm not going to get into it, but in politics, there's a certain name. If you name that, and you are either going to be no reaction or complete strong, super strong reaction, right? So it's a trigger. This is a trigger word. Love is a trigger word. God is a trigger word. And there are some others. So when they hear these triggers, these people that really respond like, then it's because they have some history about it that they weren't able to free yet. Yeah.
I want to say, I feel my answer, why is this happening, is because the world was set up as right and wrong instead of right and left. The difference between right and left, it allows two sides. It's a right side and a left side. Whereas right and wrong allows one side. One is correct and the other one is incorrect. And that's the issue. When we live from that mindset, we have a harder time, and we were in this energy field that was set up like that. So we are working
Duality.
Well, like I said, if it were duality and balance, we would have left and right. We would have right and left, but we had right and wrong. So we had one side correct, other side incorrect. That's not how it works. I mean, not from my perspective.
But you know, in duality, like duel, a duel is two guys standing in front of each other with a gun, and one of them is going to die.
There you have it again. This is just these setups in the field that are coming up as a symbolic meaning. The rules are coming up in symbolics, in the symbolism of things. And the duel is a symbol for two sides attacking each other as much as the right and wrong would be. But why does anybody need to attack here? What is this? The mindset of the separation, yeah, we're seeing only the separated self where there can be enemies and stuff. Whereas on the oneness, we're all this energy field. Why would anybody be my enemy? If I am broadcasting into a field that returns my own energy, only I can make those enemies. In fact, they are already out there. And then I consent to them because maybe there's something older than my consciousness right now, since we're going through all kind of, I don't want to get too complicated now, but I don't know. Ask questions, Joe. I can get some, whatever. It's good that you ask questions.
No, I love the conversation because I think it lets the listeners kind of understand how you think and what your motivations are. And I think that's terribly important. I think there's great things that you're talking about that I personally would not talk about on my own. And I think exposing our listeners to all different viewpoints and all different thought processes can help them build the life that they want. And that's the whole point of our podcast. Our podcast is for people to take control of their lives in whatever way they see as right for them. It's not my place to tell people who to be or how to be. All we encourage people to do is to be purposeful about the life that they live. If something is important to you, you should pursue it wholeheartedly and aggressively. And it doesn't matter what that is. You get to choose it.
That's the aggressive part. But that's just me.
I'm an aggressive guy. That's how I am. So
I'm sorry. Do you mean you are going for it? Because that's something else.
That's passion, right? You are passionate. I don't really feel you as an aggressive.
I can see, I don't get you as an aggressive person per se, as energy. I get you as a maybe
passionate.
headstrong, or you know where you want to go.
Clear-minded.
But yeah, because aggression has very negative. I don't get that.
In the way
But
we
that's
grew up.
okay. You
anyway,
could describe
yeah,
yourself. It's
whatever.
fine.
Words are funny
We
things.
come from aggression, so that's not something that we want. That's why we like this.
Sure. It makes perfect sense. And I think your definition is a good one. With that said, I absolutely can be aggressive if necessary. I'm not a provoker. I don't try to start fights. I don't try to irritate people, but I also don't acquiesce on situations that I don't agree with or I don't believe in. So you're right. I'm very headstrong for sure. And I don't spend a lot of time worrying what other people think about me, but I also don't, I try to be very respectful and non-judgmental of everybody. Like you get to be whoever you want to be, and I'm totally good with that. You just don't get to tell me how I should be. And
I think we're like
We
you.
resonate with you here, brother.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, I tell you. So I love the pictures of your live performances on your website. Where do you do your live performances? Do you do a lot of live performances, or how do you deliver your music to people?
So we haven't done a lot of live performances. We did private parties.
Those are live, but they're just not. They're live performances.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
private parties.
Yeah, private party. So live. Yeah. At private parties, small gatherings. Often people know that we're singing, and then they're like, "Oh, can't you sing?" And then we're very spontaneous. Okay, sing them a few songs. We started to well, the pictures that you have there. There are parts of them are a little older. There's also, I know, a picture of a huge stage with orchestration that was beautiful. That was a different show, actually. That wasn't Our Truth, but it was us on stage as Our Truth. We were already Our Truth, but we were singing somebody else's song. There's all kinds of shows that we had over the years. The pictures on our website were smaller shows that we had in the past. Yeah.
We have a show coming up, but this is
By
gonna
the
be
time you
posted.
post
Yeah,
that, we have
show's
two
over.
shows coming up, actually. By the time you post that, that's over. But this weekend will be two
But there'll be
shows.
pictures probably. Anyone who's listening now on our website probably see those pictures.
Anyone who's listening now, oh, in September, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
we want to do we I don't know, I don't know what we want here with
No, I know what we want.
shows.
Of course,
We're having a lot of shows coming up right now. Not this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. Then we have one more. We have
shows coming up.
now.
A lot of them are private, but here, if anyone's listening, what I really want is an orchestra. I would like to perform with an orchestra. That is one of my.
If we
I
haven't
know
done,
we do it both.
if
It's
we
a really
haven't
big
done that by September.
So talk about Our Truth. How did you develop that name, and what does it mean both to you and to the people you play for?
Well, Our Truth began a few years ago because we were musicians with someone else, and we came to a moment of disagreement, unfortunately, which made us fall apart. Separate, I should say. It didn't fall. We separated. And in the 1 week period of us trying to figure out who are you and who are we would write each other emails, and it would be, okay, so this is your truth, but this is our truth. This is your truth, but this is our truth. And so then when it was clear that we can't continue together because we weren't on the same mindset anymore, and we worked together many, many, many years, we were trying to figure out, I did, well, you did too. We were trying to figure out what would be our name for Isabel and I. And coincidentally, with the other group, with the other musician, I had written a song called Our Truth. And it was the last song we performed with this other musician.
Great song, I love it.
And so when we came to what are we doing now, Isabel, we came to let's just do Our Truth because it's resonating so truthfully right now with the fact that we kept saying it, our truth, our truth, our truth, and we sang our truth. And funny enough, that song, the last sentence is, yes, we made it to our truth. So it only made sense. And what also is that truth, again, is to me very individual. But Isabel and I share a truth, which is that life's love, and that we wish to be of service to that expression, love. We both have that in common. We enjoy, I mean, for me, I like to say I like to catch every moment with love. So what does that mean? It means that in my environment, you'll know that I love you because you're in my environment, because you are a reflection of me as I'm a reflection of you, and therefore I automatically love you. And so wherever I go, I like to share that feeling so that everyone in my environment knows they are loved, at least by me, and hopefully that is the trigger for them to know, of course, I'm loved by everything else. But a lot of people I noticed through my life, meeting many people, they have forgotten. They don't see their value, and I like to give it back to them. And that is one of the things that we like to give to people as our truth, to remind our environment or anyone that comes to us or gets touched by us of their authentic self. We don't want to say, this is how you do it and now follow this rule. We want to say, this is how it can be done, and now I hope you're inspired to find your own path. She speaks. That's me speaking. That's right. That's me, Corinna, speaking about my truth. But here, you want to share your truth?
No, I just no, I mean yes and yes and mm, I feel the best inspiration we can ever be is by being authentic. And authentic, I like to also add to that authenticity is the truth of the heart. Because we had that before, and I mentioned that before, that when somebody does terrible things, decides to do terrible things, they might still say it's authentic. And to them, it might be authentic from their point of view. That's their authentic expression, to be that. But the true authenticity is the truth of the heart. In the heart, or in the center, is where we are, love itself. That's my perspective. So you and I talked about this too, while you're looking to be a hunter. What did you say?
I used to say a hunter of my fears.
Yeah, or you want to express with love. I feel like that's what I am. I am love. I am love in a field of love. We can call it all different names. I am energy in an energy field. That energy, the truth of my energy is appreciation. It's the appreciation for what is in a field that is appreciation for what is. Hence, it's so important that I become a witness of what I am experiencing so that I can always align myself with that love that I am, so that I can have we're saying the same things. I'm just using different words. But I want to say that I'm not here I don't see myself I'm not alive to be anybody's inspiration. I think inspiration is a much better word than teacher, because we are here to remember things with each other, and we're all here together. I am here to be that authentic, which you said, where I'm here to be that love that I am. Whoever is inspired around me by me being myself, that's wonderful. And if somebody is not inspired, that's out of my hands too. Both is out of my hands. So a focus on what my environment does with what I am is out of my hands, and it's not important. Like you said, I don't care what people think or whatever. This is actually a healthy approach, because everybody is watching from as a witness from their own point of view. And I have already noticed in many conversations, we are only holding on to those things that are important for our journey. So this is also most empowering. I'm going to share it with you now, and the audience here. I found the most empowering about myself, about looking at myself, when I realized and I internalized that what I see in the mirror, what I see on pictures, what I see on the video that I watch of myself, is a very individual thing. And I let go that anybody sees what I'm seeing. So it's not affecting, then it doesn't have to affect you. Like if anybody looks in the mirror and says, well, however I see myself, I know, I'm aware, I don't like the word I know, I'm aware that somebody else will see something else. We have pictures, and you say, and I say, I really don't like myself on that picture. And Corinna would say, what? You look awesome. Or the other way around. I say, I love this picture of me. And somebody says, I don't think that's very flattering for you. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It's what I feel, because this is the core of me, the energy. That's the authentic expression. And that I go with that, what feels right to my heart, to the love that I am, to the love that I have for myself, and the love that I am with the field.
So love. How do you explain love? I don't like the word define, but how do you explain or describe love? Because it's at the center of what you try to convey through your music. What does it mean?
This is what I used the word already. We had a friend, and she was with a man, and he said he can't say I love you because he doesn't know what it means. And I was I went very internally, and I looked into the field, and I tried to find another word, and the word that came is appreciation. That's what love is. The energy is an unconditional appreciation. That's me too. I feel like I'm very unconditionally appreciating, because even if I see something that doesn't align with me, I can still appreciate that it exists. I don't have to keep inviting it. No, I can take that choice and walk away from it, which I do if I feel like this is not aligned with me. But it doesn't make it less valuable in this field that I'm in, because I can appreciate it. I have come to a point where everything that happened, all the darkness, all the pain that I had to work through, I appreciate. I appreciate all of it. I appreciate the perpetrators, because I am aware that the perpetrators brought me onto my path, onto this, who I am now, onto this awareness, I integrated all these lessons, and I can only do that if I appreciate what happened. I used to say like this, we can say, I forgive what happened, but the next step is I actually integrate it. I find myself in the situation, in the perpetrator, so that I can integrate that into my expansion.
Corinna, do you have anything to add to that? Or do you have a different perspective than that? Or do you just agree?
Well, I agree that appreciation is a really wonderful way of looking at what love is as an expression. To me, it's also when I say that I am love, it's the appreciation, and it's a matter of choice too, right? Because wherever I go, it's an awareness too, maybe it's definitely a feeling that in the end feels good. That is what love is. In the end, it feels good. And I love love for what it does to me and for me. And I love that feeling of going somewhere and going away thinking, I just raised the field. So I know I'm not explaining what love is for that matter. So I guess I'm agreeing with Isabel. It is a good explanation to say it is appreciation.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because then it just feels good.
I want to say that the German translation for appreciation is Wertschätzung, and I really like that word, because Wertschätzung says I see the value, I value the value of something. So if I take the word apart, Wertschätzung is valuing a value. So I feel like I see the value in everything. That's what love is. If we can get to a point where we see the value of all of it, even though we have, and this is important, everything has value, but that doesn't mean I need to accept it in my energy field. I can walk away from it. I have that power. I can choose to not engage with that doesn't align with my good feelings. But that doesn't take the value away, because whatever is, I have a daughter, and I love to always say to her, everything exists because everything exists. Everything exists because everything exists. So when it exists, and everything, I can go now and say like everything exists with reason. everything has a purpose and a reason to be here. It might not be for me other than just to see it so that I see contrast, so that I can say, I see it now so that I know that's not what I want. So that I'm clear at what I want. But then I needed to see it to have that clarity. That already gives it value. I don't have to keep engaging, but it's still valuable. That's love.
I don't know how to define it. And so I'm appreciate your attempts because I really don't know how to
Well, in the
define
end,
it.
honestly, I think it's a feeling. It isn't so
Yeah.
much of how we define it, it's how we feel. If we like, if it's love, it's going to feel good. I say that again. If it doesn't feel good, it's not love. Love feels good. That's it. If you feel, and then now, if you feel good because you just killed someone, that is again not love, because the number one thing that matters in this expression of feeling is that nobody else suffered through your feeling. It's you feel this and nobody else suffered. That's love, I guess I should say, because as soon as you take somebody else away, you miss the point.
I'm still going to go to the appreciation. And I tell you, Joe, the reason why I feel that so very strongly, and that's totally okay. We can all have, whatever. But why I'm so strong about this is because I was looking at what is the field actually giving me as an answer. And I remember when that answer came, I was bawling. I was crying so much because I felt appreciated. I felt like, well, what are you? And I felt this appreciation. And we can say, this is how I see the field too, the energy field that we're in. It is responding to our energy in perfect balance, actually. It's in perfect balance, whether that balance then is this or whatever. It's actually, it is always, it makes 100%. If you want, if that is a 60-40 or 30-70 or 95-5, whatever, it makes 100%. And this field feels like it's listening. I like to, you say so many times, it's listening to my, what is it you want? Oh yeah, you can have that. It never says no. It never says that no doesn't exist. It's yeah. Oh, you can have that. Oh yeah, you can have that. Yeah, you can have more of that. That's what love is to me too. This is this energy of the response to no judgment. Just whatever you just ask for, you can have it.
And this is where
and that's appreciation to me. And that's the seeing the value too. I see your value, whatever you just broadcasted, you can have that. No judgment.
This is where the mindfulness comes in though, because as Isabel said, the field is another word for life, love, God, whatever, right? Is
energetic speak.
that energy that's listening and always responding without judgment is listening to everything. So when I say, I hate this, then what the field hears is, oh, you hate this? I'll give you more.
Okay.
So this is where it's so good to be cautious in that sense. I mean, anybody do whatever, but I learned, because again, since we come from an aggressive background, I learned aggression and I was aggressive and I did many things in the past where I remember think that for a long time already, at least I did all that stuff before people walked around with cell phones, because at least that's not documented. My God.
It is documented, but not like that.
No. So yeah, it's documented, in the, I was seen in whatever. I do think that where everything is in the records, but at least not like that, thank God. But because I grew up with this stuff, with this aggression, I had to unlearn, and I forgot what my point was. What were we saying? Why did I even come there? I don't know anymore.
It's all about love. Love, love, love. All you need is love.
That's a great song, by the way.
I
know you didn't. I know you didn't write it, but that's a great song.
I wrote another one. In the end, all that remains is the love we're made of. It's actually called The Love We're Made Of. That's the title of the song.
Is your music in a specific genre? Does it sound mostly like pop? Does it sound mostly like jazz? Or do you just do all sorts of different stuff?
So we I was thinking that we call it inspirational or spiritual pop, although now, spiritual is another one of those words that I put in the same category as God and love, where Isabel was making this great statement that let's call it energy. So instead of saying it's spiritual, we say it's energetic because life itself is energy, and that's a fact, and you can prove it, and so when we say a spiritual person is a person that deals with energy. So there comes the whatever. Come back to what kind of music? We calling it pop. However, when people listen to our music, they often say it sounds like it belongs into Disney or some musical. So it has a musical feel to it, even though the music that you find on our website right now, most of it is from a musical we wrote, so it is musical music. And then we have the single album, which that's a little bit different. But the songs that we have written that are not seen anywhere yet, because it's just in our little vault, waiting to be brought into the world, I do think is again a little bit different.
Yeah, I would say pop sound, probably pop with many harmonies, and the Disney-ish thing is also like a pop sound. And the new songs are, yeah, I think pop is correct, but we can call it conscious pop because we're very conscious with the words we're using.
Yes, mindful.
Yeah,
Like basically when you listen to our music, if you sing along or you don't, and it's only in the background, where we again believe that everything has an influence if we're aware or not, the conscious or subconscious, our music will always support.
yeah. And it's because this was because we channeled it. It's because this is energy that is flowing through, and we are the
Yeah, we didn't try to go for it, it just happened.
Yeah, but recently I'm writing a song, I'm writing a few songs right now, but funny, two of those, I channeled them completely different. And I used to say but that whatever is channeled, it has to stay. And there are channeled songs with words, for example, whatever, with words in there that are unacceptable. So I actually started to rewrite this interesting, completely new way of writing.
Whoever was giving you
But
this information
we
was
can say
someone you were
overall
choosing.
positive lyrics. Then this is positive messages.
Yes, mindful in that.
It's something that, because words, when we say something, right? When we say something, it's on the right side of the brain, right? No, on the left side. On the left side of the brain, because connected to the right body. So so it gets worked in on that side of the brain. The music's on the other side of the brain. So connecting that and having both sides activated, so to speak, is like as activating something within the human body. And a lot of with repeatedly negative lyrics that are activating both sides of the brain. Well, that's not happening with our music. Let's say it's good stuff. It's
No, wait, no. Let's not say good or bad, because all music exists with reason.
Exactly.
And I would never stop a musician to write their whatever comes through them, and I would never want them to stop sharing, because I do believe every creative expression is with reason. And as a matter of fact, and I love this idea, I believe every creation already knows who it's gonna touch. And that's with anything. That's not just music. That's a painting too. It doesn't matter. Like whatever creative expression already knows, because it's already existing. And we just pull it through. If I pull it through a brush, or if I pull it through my keyboard, or my mouth, through the words that are coming, it's already there. And I'm just putting it in this time frame now so that it can exist in this world. But it already knows. So if I touch one person, I already did what I was meant to do.
And I want to say thank you for interrupting and correcting me, because I want to be more aware of how I speak, so that I do not say things that I actually not believe. I said that earlier. Sometimes we just speak because so commonly said that it just flows so easily. But it's true. I don't believe that our lyrics are good and other people's lyrics are not good. I believe that our lyrics are empowering, and maybe some other lyrics are empowering in a different way. Because empowering in the end, I guess, even if I suppress somebody, I can empower them to stand up for themselves. Sometimes that is needed. So yeah.
Yeah, and I would
No
like to
judgment.
add something to that too, because we are speaking from personal experience. This isn't, this came from, we just noticed that the lyrics are supportive. But the fact is,
To us.
when I was growing up, of course, I don't know, of course, but I did not have any thought towards what I'm singing. I enjoyed the lyrics, I sang along. And nowadays, I look at some of those songs that I still think are amazing as music, and I can't even sing it anymore. I either change the lyrics, I have to stop, turn off the song because
True.
it doesn't work anymore. But it used to work. And what I know is, back in the days of us growing up, the music that was introduced to us by our parents, there was no raunchy music at the time, lyrics, right? There were no brutal things that you can sing along to nowadays, but there was heartbreak. And I experienced every heartbreak I ever sang about. And while I think that's great because I am who I am now and I love me, I do love the idea of not doing that for anyone. I will not serve you heartbreak music. And it again, it exists with reason because I remember I loved it. I remember when I got my heart broken again, which is what doesn't even, it doesn't work. You say I felt like it was broken, but it always mends again. So, but in that moment of feeling very, very, like a liquid pool, like just like I would have music that talks about that, and it made me feel better because I guess misery loves company, that kind of thing. It feels good to know others had that too. But nowadays, again, this isn't what we do.
Everything has its place,
Yes,
and our music has a focus on the positives. There.
Yeah, because that works for you, and that's awesome.
Yep,
That's
exactly.
that's why that's why it resonates with people, right? It's because it's authentically you, right?
It's true.
That's
For
what is
sure,
what I
for
believe. Yeah.
sure true.
Any
Our truth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's one of the things I love about music is when you hear artists talk, and there are some people who pursue music because they think it'll make them rich and famous, and their stuff generally doesn't resonate with a lot of people because it's not authentic. Not a judgment, just more of a statement. But the people that truly perform because they love the art of performing or writing or playing, they have such a respect for people that are in completely different genres than they are. And it's one of the things I love is kind of that cross pollination that happens across the industry. So, for example, you have rappers who love country music and country musicians who love pop and pop musicians who love hard rock musicians who love classical, et cetera, et cetera. And it's one of the things I've always loved. My own personal tastes in music are very eclectic. So I appreciate music in all forms. And
Sorry.
yeah, I love it. I like when I pitched, there's two different jobs as a pitcher. One is the guy that starts the game. So when the game starts, you're out there. And then there's guys that come in from the bullpen. And I did both. But when you're the starting pitcher, everything kind of revolves around you for that day because it's actually a very unnatural motion to throw a baseball. So you can only pitch once every 4 or 5 days because it really kind of destroys your body and your body has to heal. And it takes about 4 days for that to happen. But when I was a starter, I lived with two other starting pitchers, and whoever was pitching that day got to pick the music that they wanted to listen to because it changes how you think and it changes how your body works. And it was very interesting because I had one roommate who was Mexican and he loved mariachi bands. And so on the days he pitched, we would listen to mariachi bands while we were getting ready before we went to the field. I had another roommate who loved heavy metal. And so we would listen to Guns N' Roses because that was by far his favorite band and they were super popular at the time. On the days that I pitched, we listened to classical music. I do like classical music, but I found it put me in a really good mental place to perform really well when I played. And so we listened to classical music. And I don't know why it worked for me, but I know it did. It just made kind of the connection between my mind and my body work the way I needed it to perform at a high level. And I'm certain it was one of the reasons that I was successful is because I listened to classical music before I pitched. And it can have such a deep impact on people's lives. It's one of the things I love about it.
That's wonderful, and it makes me curious how it affected you to hear Guns N' Roses versus the what's it called?
Mariachi.
Yeah. How did you notice a difference there? Did you notice a difference in your performance when you had certain kinds of music? Other than
Not so not really, because if you're a starting pitcher, you typically only pitch on the days where you know you're going to start. So if my one of my roommates was starting, I didn't pitch that day. And so I never really saw, hey, I listened to this and then I went out and did that. Actually, you
Okay.
know what? Now that I say that, there was one time that happened. And my roommate who loved like Guns N' Roses, he went out and he did not have a good day. And so they took him out of the game very early on and they brought me in and I pitched outstanding. Like I threw really, really well for the rest of the game. I actually finished the game, which is a hard thing to do. So that was the only time I remember that happening and it went really well for me.
Right.
Nice.
All
Yeah.
right. So did you try different kinds of music, or was classical was your kind generally?
Yeah, classical was my thing for sure when I was playing. It
You
worked
still
really
play?
well for me. What's
Cool.
that?
Do you still play?
Baseball? No.
No. You
Nope.
don't miss it? Because you sound so passionate about it. It makes me wonder if it isn't something that you could still get a lot of joy out of it, unless you have a physical issue.
Yeah, no physical issue other than I'm old. And it's a
You mean
young man's
wise? Wait.
it's a young man's game for sure because it can be hard on your body. But no, I don't miss baseball. It's funny you asked that question because um I was most of the guys that so I played at what's called Division 1, which is the highest level of college baseball. And almost everybody that's playing Division 1 wants to sign a professional contract. And I had been working, like I told you, since I was 3 to put myself in that position. And after my junior year, I was talking to a couple of teams about signing a contract. And I had met my wife, and I knew immediately, like both of us knew immediately, that we were going to get married. And the life of a professional baseball player that's not at the top level, because in professional baseball, there's lots of different levels. It kind of works like football does in Germany, where if you get relegated, you go down a division and et cetera, et cetera. But there's lots of divisions in professional baseball. And you make almost no money if you're in one of the lower divisions, which is where everybody starts. But I knew that life would not be a great place for us to start our life together. So I just quit. I actually just walked away. And people ask me, well, you were so close. Don't you regret it? I've never once for a second regretted my choice or my decision because I have an awesome life. I have my relationship. Like there's zero experiences I could have had in baseball compared to what I have in the relationship with my wife. With that said, I loved every single minute of playing baseball. I loved everything about it, even the hard, crappy stuff, lifting weights and running really hard and all the training and coaches yelling at you. I loved everything about it. I loved every single thing about it. But
That,
I don't miss it, which is crazy, but I don't.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful that you don't miss it because then you're doing it right.
you had your
Mm.
passion and you found a new passion. We can do that, right?
I
And
love
what's
it.
more beautiful than love? I mean,
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There was lots of people that thought I was crazy for doing what I did, but I didn't think I was crazy at all. I knew exactly what I was
It's
doing,
kind
and
of
I got it right.
romantic. I love it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that movie called 15 Again? Is it 15 Again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
17 again.
that's okay, 17. It's exactly that story about, he gives up whatever, he's playing basketball, but he gives it up for love, and then he thinks he gave up something wrong, and then in the end he realizes he never gave up the wrong thing. He did exactly what he felt in his heart. That love is the winner, and I agree. Thank you. Nice. I
Yeah.
love that and that you don't regret. I love it.
Well, it's funny too because my wife actually asked me fairly recently. She said, you talk more about baseball now than you have. Is there anything in your life now that gives you the same feeling as when you played baseball? And I said, oh no, absolutely not even close. And that's not good or bad. It's just true. Like when you are in front of 3, 4, 5,000 people and everyone's cheering and yelling and emotions are high and everybody's competing really hard, that's a really unique environment. And there's no way to recreate that environment somewhere in kind of the normal world. Uh, and I loved that. And it never, shouldn't say never. That's the wrong way to say it. I got over it quickly when we lost or things didn't go my way. When I didn't play well or when I failed. And like, in baseball, you win or you lose. It's binary. Like you play until somebody wins and somebody loses. It's not like, and by the way, I was an excellent football player. I was a center back and I actually had a chance to play in college as well because I was a very good center back. But in that sport, there's ties. There's no ties in baseball. You play till somebody wins and somebody loses. That's just how it is. But I got over it quickly. So even that, I learned so much from that. I'm glad I did it. I loved that part of it. I loved the pressure. I loved the competition. I loved all that stuff about it. Absolutely loved it. And to like you've talked about, it's taught me how to be the way I am today. It taught me so many life lessons. I wouldn't be the same person if I hadn't done it. And I'm a better person for doing it by far.
Nice.
Which is what everyone can, if they can do that, if people can look at their life and really understand that who they are right now is because of everything they ever experienced, then it makes it easier, I think, to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, this is me. This is me because of everything. And hopefully we look in the mirror thinking, yeah, love you.
Me too. Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to have you guys back on. Will you guys come back on somewhere down the road?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I loved
Absolute
our
pleasure.
conversation.
Right
Yes,
back at
I'm
you.
looking at the time, man. We did quite a conversation here.
It's funny because I tell people, and like I told you guys when we did our call, that most of our conversations tend to last between an hour and a half and 2 hours. And a lot of people are very skeptical that we'll talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And then they come on the podcast, they do what you just did. They're like, oh, it's been 2 hours already. How did that happen? But I think when people are willing to be authentic with each other and willing to genuinely talk about things that are important to them and things they believe in, it's a really, really fun experience. And that's by far the single most common comment I get was I had so much fun doing your podcast, which I love. And that's the environment we're trying to create. We want people to be themselves. We want them to say what they think, say what they feel, without being judged, without worrying about it. And you guys certainly did that. I love having you guys on.
Thank you.
Love
being
love
with
your
you as
energy
well.
too. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So excellent. Well, look, I'll put you down for a follow-up and I'll reach out somewhere in the future and we can talk. I want to talk more about, we didn't get into several things that I want to get into more about. So you're prepared. You talked about feminine and masculine energy. You talked about yin and yang. And I definitely want to explore. There's a long conversation to be had around those subjects that I'd love to have.
All right.
You got it. We are communicators. We do love it. We love talking, and I don't like any superficial stuff. So this worked really well. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks so much for coming on. Really, really enjoyed having you on. And it'll be fun the next time you come on.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Joe.
Have a beautiful rest of the day.
Yep.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, guys. So like we said, Corinna and Isabel, just top-notch folks. Just really enjoyed having them on the podcast. Love their thoughts and their views on life. Appreciated how candid they're willing to be about their experiences. Love their music. Love that it comes from a super authentic place. And like they said, it's our truth. Really, really excited about that. Make sure you head over to their website and check them out. They have a couple of albums out and Just really think the world of them. Like we said at the end there, we'll have them back on the podcast at some point because we love their perspective and we love to hear more from them about how they think about those topics we talked about there at the end. So just really appreciate them coming on and looking forward to having them back on somewhere down the road. So James puts it up right over here every day. Head over to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are available there. All the links to our social media accounts are there. We publish a newsletter every weekday you can subscribe to there as well. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you consume it on. We keep having awesome people on. Isabel and Corinna are great examples of that. You don't want to miss all the awesome opportunities you have to learn, to grow, to build a better life. Make sure you check out our next episode so you don't miss those. We will see you there.